back to the Massive Impact Podcast, episode 012. The title, Getting Unstuck. Welcome back today. This is episode 012, and it's a very important topic, near and dear to me. I actually took a long time writing out my notes for this morning, and the title again is Getting Unstuck, because I feel as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it is so easy to fall into this trap of getting stuck in or on your business. It's something that I've dealt with quite a bit. I've had to overcome. So again, in this episode, I'm going to speak about how entrepreneurs and business owners can identify when they are stuck, and then what the counter or the alternative is, how to get unstuck. So important. Number one reason, you have no business lined up at the moment. If this is your case, you are truly stuck. Okay, so let me ask you this. Did you recently have a customer? Have you exhausted all of their product or service needs? Really important question. You know, if you have too much churn and you are a service provider and you just have all this churn and you're just so dependent on new customers, I would argue that that's exhaustive. You can't really keep up with that. I shouldn't say can't. There are business models out there that rely on that, but is that what you really truly want? Is that the intention? Is that your business model? So what am I getting at? Let me share an example with you. When I was in high school, I had a job selling athletic shoes, gym shoes, sneakers at this store, a retailer. And sometimes a customer would come in and they would ask for a shoe style, a particular shoe, and they would give me their size. I would go back to the warehouse only to find we did not have their size. Okay. Now, some of my colleagues, some of the other employees, they would just come back empty-handed, right? And from that point, the customer would traditionally just walk away and leave because they came for a certain thing. We could not provide that certain thing, and so they left. Well, how often is this happening to you? Now, what do I mean here? I rarely would lose this type of customer. Instead, I would bring out a different shoe. Now, was it in the same category of what they were looking for? Sure. You know, if they were looking for a basketball shoe, would I bring them a running shoe? No, absolutely not. And vice versa. So what I did instead was I would find a similar model. Okay, maybe it's the same brand. Maybe it's the same sort of aesthetics, but I would bring them something very comparable. Maybe it's in the same price category. Maybe it's all of the above. And I would bring that out to them. And I would say, you know what? We happened to have this shoe in your size, the one that you originally were interested in. We didn't have, but I would recommend trying this on and see if you like it. Now, this was called cross-selling, and we were actually trained to cross-sell in these scenarios. Okay, so let's get back to the situation that you have. Maybe you have no business at the moment, nothing lined up. Well, have you provided your most recent customer the most value that is possible, the most value that you can provide them? What have you left on the table? Did they ask for their size in a particular fit and you didn't have it? As an analogy, if you're product-based, I just gave you an example of cross-selling to meet their needs. Well, are there any add-ons? If you have a product-based service, are there any add-ons that would benefit them? Going back to this product example, okay, so you sold them the shoes on the cross sale. Good job. Well, how about socks? Do they need socks? Do they need shoe cleaner? Do they need shoe protectant? Do they need better insoles? Um, do they need an extra set of shoelaces? Do they need apparel? You get the point, okay? You get the point. So, are you being as creative as you can in your product or service offering? Um, Typically, I would say the majority of the time that I'm buying a product or a service, uh, the majority of the time, I would venture to say, no one tries to either upsell me or cross sell. Now, don't think that upsell is a bad word here, okay? I'm not implying that you browbeat your customer. I'm just saying you have more value to add than what you are adding or providing today. And I'm simply asking, have you exhausted all avenues, whether it's product or service based? Do they even know? Do they even know what all you can provide them? Uh, Probably not. Have you articulated that? Probably not. Okay. What about a service based customer? Okay, great. Maybe you just provided a service for one of your customers. What else do they need? Recently, we had our driveway power washed. That's why we called this company. And after they were done, you know what he asked me? When's the last time you had your windows cleaned? And I said, I don't know. Do you clean windows? And he said, yep, absolutely. We've got you covered. He shared the cost. And I said, perfect. You're here anyway. I mean, you're actually saving me work and effort from having to reschedule you or to reschedule another service, another vendor, what have you. Next thing you know, he was cleaning our windows. Now, did I expect that he would ask me that? No. Was I glad he asked me that? Yeah, absolutely. Could I have said no? I could have, but he didn't know what I was going to say. He asked me and he got the business. So my point is, have you exhausted everything in your wheelhouse with your current or your most recent customer? This is the easiest way to grow. This is the easiest way to grow your revenue. Typically, you have an acquisition cost with getting a new customer. Well, if you expand your offerings with your customers, you're not having to pay an immediate acquisition cost for that additional service. You're just simply growing the revenue of that existing or most customer. I just don't understand the mentality of people who want to jump from customer to customer in a service-based industry without exhausting all of the needs of their current client. So at a minimum, at the Verada Group, we will provide our customers, our clients, with all of the things that we can provide value to them for within their business. Why? Well, first of all, I believe it's my duty to help clients in a maximum capacity. If I see or one of my guys sees in a factory, in a plant, that they can add different value, additional value, then it is their duty to also express this to our customers. Now, again, I'm not implying that you don't deliver on the service that you were hired for. I don't imply that you become distracted. I don't imply that this is a forceful sell by any means. I'm just saying stay one step ahead of your client with all that you can do for them. At a minimum, you need to communicate everything that you can do, everything that you can provide. That's why you're in business. And that's how you grow your business. And it's okay. if a customer says no at this point. That's great. Now you've had the conversation. Um, you must document, what these add-on values or products, services are. Keep this list alive. Share it with them. Um, Commit to a date with them that you can come back and have this conversation again, because just because they say no now does not mean that they're not interested. Okay? So again, keep this list alive. This is the pipeline of your business. This is the pipeline, certainly, of your recent or your current customer. This needs to be the pipeline, and it needs to be a live list, and a list that you can add to, a list that you can have conversations about again with your client. And it's absolutely okay if they say no at the present moment. You've planted a seed. You've shown where there may or may not be a need. And, oftentimes the clients will actually add to that list. They'll say, hey, did you know that we need this? We need X or Y. Well, you wouldn't know that had you not given them this list of other services or products, because you started, you initiated, and the customer comes back and says, well, actually, we need X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. I will add it to your list. I don't find often where a client says, yeah, take those things off the list. I really don't. They might have somebody else in mind for some of those other items, but guess what? Guess what that means? It's a need. It's a need that you've identified, and you're there right now. So the chances of your growth, the chances of getting unstuck are higher. Okay. Another way to get business, if you're stuck in this rut of not having business at the present moment, is to ask your current and your past clients for referrals and testimonials. I'm actually not great about asking for the referrals, and I need to do a better job. It's something I have done. It's something I'm going to do better this year, 2025. It's something I'm committing to. I'm already doing a much better job asking for testimonials. And there are actually case studies where businesses have invested a lot of money in research to see what it is in terms of marketing and communications that is the most successful in acquiring new customers. And you know what those case studies point to is these public affirmations, these public testimonials from their previous clientele. So, it's really just not rocket science. Think about when you shop. Maybe you shop on Amazon. Do you look at the star rating? Absolutely. Do you look at, customer testimonials and reviews? I do. Are you going to buy a product from somebody with a 1-star review or a 1-star average? Probably you're not even going to buy from somebody with a 3-star. Back when eBay was huge, how much traction, how many customers, what's their rating, what's their percentage? I would not buy from somebody with less than 100%. So this is a way to sort of shine a spotlight on your reputation by simply asking customers, hey, I'd like a testimonial. What can you say that you liked about our business, about our service, our product? In what way can you speak, and show some goodwill for us? And then taking it one step further, if they're going to provide a testimonial, ask them, hey, would you have a conversation potentially in the future with a prospect of ours? Would you be willing to take a call or an email or a note? Would you share your experience maybe in further detail? You're going to find that your customers, are glad to help you out. They're going to be happy to support you, but you must do a good job. You must provide a good service, a good product. So reputation is everything. I don't want to necessarily dwell in this episode on, the performance of your product or your service. That's a given. If it's not excellent, then you're going to shrivel up as a company anyway. So I'm assuming that your product is fantastic. I'm assuming that your service is fantastic. That would be a different episode. You must provide. You must stand out from your competition. But if you are stuck in terms of getting that next piece of business, then think about the things I've just shared with you. Exhaust it. Exhaust every component and aspect. And again, this does not have to be a forceful conversation with your client, because that's actually going to backfire. It's just, hey, we were here, we saw these other needs, we can actually accommodate those as well, either now or in the future. This is a list for you to think on, add to it. We would be happy to help you out when the time is right. And you'll be surprised. This is a great way to get unstuck, okay? Are you marketing your business? Does anyone know about you? What's your marketing budget? So you've exhausted open items with your clients. You've exhausted all the services and products that you can provide them. Well, that's only going to get you so far, even if your current customer or recent customer signs up for all of them. Now you have to expand your footprint. So what are you doing in terms of marketing? Who knows about you? You could provide the best services and products. If no one knows about you, again, you're going to shrivel up. So what do? We use free as well as paid tools. There's LinkedIn. There's social media. There's this podcast. There's email. There's telephone. There's many ways to reach out. I've done them all. We've done them all. Have we gotten work from cold calls? Yes, we have. Yes, we have. We have had cold call campaigns that have landed business with paying customers. So again, are you leveraging all of these tools? Are you leveraging everything that you have access to? It's easier than ever today to get your name out, your brand, your product, your service. I mentioned a few. There's LinkedIn. There's social media. Take advantage of these. Okay. Number 2, you're stuck because you have no money or not enough cash flow at the present moment. Okay. This is typical for startups. This is typical for new companies. Maybe your company's 1 year old, 3 years old. Hopefully by then you've outgrown this issue, but at some point you may either literally not have enough money or you feel that you don't have enough money. So at the end of the day, a business is successful when it cash flows. That's it. Now you may argue that's a very limited view of what a successful business is. But, there are many other success factors to a business. But again, a non-cash flowing business cannot stay on life support forever, at least not on your dime. Okay, so you may temporarily have a non-cash flowing business, but to stay alive, that's got to change. Okay, so what's my point? Everything I stated is obvious. Well, ironically, the first scenario that I shared with you in terms of getting stuck, that scenario, if you take care of that, it'll take care of you not having enough cash flow or money. Okay? If you're not providing all the value that you can, then you're going to run into quite possibly the scenario of not having enough cash flow. So scenario 1, takes care of scenario 2. Now, there may be a couple of other reasons your business doesn't have enough cash flow. Here's a few ways to get unstuck. I won't go into all the reasons of number 1, but again, maybe you're low on money because you're leaving business on the table with your current customer. Number 2, are your profit margins healthy enough? Are they healthy enough? What are you leaving on the table there? Are you a business of high volume, low margins? Some businesses don't charge enough money. There have been times recently where I've literally told a company, be it a restaurant or, probably most often, food related, where it was so good. And I've told the establishment, you're literally not charging enough money. Now, do I want them to charge more? No, but that's a compliment. That's just simply a compliment to them. But are you in that group? Are you in this group that doesn't charge enough money? How can you know? There's a couple ways you can know. You can research your competition. If you feel that you are differentiated enough from your competition that you can charge more, then try it. Simply try it. The market will tell you very quickly. Your industry will give you feedback immediately. If you stop landing business, maybe you've, raised it too high. Very likely. But look at your cash flow. What does your product or service cost you as a business owner? A lot of people don't know their own cost. If you have a product, what's your landed cost? What's your marketing cost? What's your commission cost? All of these costs. What's your acquisition cost? You have to bundle all of those costs together to look at what is your final product cost or service cost. And then, are you covering these costs with a healthy enough margin? When is the last time that you charged a price increase? Maybe it's time to do so. I've seen companies, I've seen consulting companies not raise their prices in a decade. That's not for me. I'm sorry. That's not for me. That's not for our company. Inflation is high. Are you adjusting for that? Are you passing that on to your customer? What in your company are you spending money on that is not providing its value back to you? I have fallen victim of this. Have you ever signed up for subscriptions? I do this frequently to trial a service, to try something. Guess what I'm not so good at? Remembering that I signed up for a subscription. You would be astonished if you're not looking at it, closely. And it's happened in both my personal and business life. Only to find later, I forgot about this subscription, or it no longer serves its value, its intended value. You need to cut the cord. Cut these unnecessary costs out. Again, a successful business simply cash flows at the end of the day. So maybe you're not getting results on your marketing. Fix these pain points fast. Okay, pivot. Maybe a resource in your company is not performing like they should. Have those tough conversations. Fortunately, I've not had to deal with that. But if the day comes and a resource is not performing like they should, is it turning into a cost? That's not sustainable. Have those tough conversations, identify those pain points, and reverse course as quickly as possible. You could even go into your supply chain for a product. Is your supply chain optimal? Are you vetting it? Are you keeping it honest? Are you keeping your vendors honest? How much are you asking for in terms of price decreases? There's nothing wrong with that. If your product-based service is growing, that means you have more volume. Well, your suppliers need to work with you. Again, these are the tough conversations. You need to have the tough conversations. You need to be vetting other vendors, other services, other products. So dig inside of your supply chain, but you must know what your costs are all in, or else you cannot evaluate if you have a healthy profit margin because you don't even know your cost. So again, all these things, they seem very, very simple, and I believe that they actually are. You just need to take the time to reevaluate it inside of your company. And when you're stuck, something has to change. You have to take massive action to reverse course. Do you have proper monetary levers? What I mean is, do you have a line of credit? If you have a temporary need for this temporary bridge, then a line of credit can be great. A line of credit can also be great to leverage, rather than leveraging your own precious cash flow. But you do need to be careful. If you can borrow money from a line of credit and get a return on that investment for your business, then a line of credit is absolutely wonderful. Or maybe you need a line of credit just as a buffer, as that bridge, like I said, which is going to lead into my next point in a moment here, which is what are your terms with your clients? But, that line of credit can kind of extend a bridge as you're waiting for payments. But make sure you understand that you know how this line of credit works so you're not tempted to go crazy with it, because ultimately, that could create another cash flow pain point for you if you're over leveraging it and you don't have the means to make it whole. So don't spend frivolously. Common sense. Okay, so what are your terms with your clients? This is one I like to evaluate often. Have you considered more favorable terms for your business? Nothing wrong with that. Actually, I would suggest that you do that more frequently. I believe in creative terms. You shouldn't lose a sale to a client over terms, unless the deck is just completely stacked against you. But I find that if a client is interested in your product or your service, then it's just really simple if they are stuck on terms to get unstuck by smoothing out those terms. So have a negotiation. It goes back to maybe a difficult or a tough conversation, at least in your head, and don't sign up for something foolishly that doesn't serve its purpose for your business. But what are the terms? There's a couple of ways you can get stuck on terms that might be keeping your business stuck. So certainly if a customer is interested in your business, I will not let terms be the sticking point for the client. Now, conversely, if you're stuck monetarily in your business from a cash flow perspective, then your terms need to be more favorable to you. Let me ask you, have you ever hired an attorney before, a law firm? If so, you know that their terms are pretty favorable for them. If you have hired an attorney, then you know that they require a retainer. A retainer is simply paying them money in the coffers that gets paid up front prior to receiving their service. So I don't know why more companies, non-legal, so not attorneys, not law firms, I don't know why more companies don't go to this. Have you ever bought maybe something custom? Say it's a custom product. They're going to require something in advance, or they should, and you're most likely okay with this. When you buy something, again, going back to Amazon, you're paying for it, then they ship it. Just because you're not an attorney doesn't mean that you can't borrow or employ these practices with your terms. If you have a new client, and they need a service. Okay, we'll pay half up front. We'll come, we'll deliver it, and then half on the back end. Or pay us all up front. Or, break it into chunks. But you don't have to accept getting paid for typical terms 30 days late. You don't have to accept that. It's within the negotiation. At the end of the day, whatever your client agrees to and you're okay with, well, then that's the term. Those are the terms. You might be saying, but you don't understand. I'm not an attorney. I can't do that. Well, this is your problem. You believe in can't. Have you tried? There's nothing wrong with asking for some payment up front. We don't do this all the time, but there are instances where it's required for my comfort level, and usually the customer doesn't have an issue. Okay, maybe you are product or resource constrained, and that's why you're stuck. If this is the case that you are product or resource constrained, obviously you have to reverse this. Without product, without a service, you have nothing to offer except the offer itself. So why are you product or resource constrained? If your supply chain is failing you, then all the more reason to be vetting other alternatives in the marketplace. If they can't deliver the goods to you on time, don't deal with that. Don't just accept that. And actually, even if today, let's say you have a single source, a single resource for a product, that's dangerous. You need to have many channels for whatever product that you're buying. And if you don't, then you could fall victim of your product being delayed or your product not even being delivered that you need for your business to resell. So if you're stuck in this scenario, and even if you're not stuck in this scenario, you need to be considering vetting other supply chain alternatives. What if you're resource constrained? Well, that I think is even easier to overcome. It's as easy today as it's ever been to find more resources that you need. Now, we do run into clients that, they have limited pools of resources in their town. Maybe it's a very rural area of the country, and it's hard to find resources because there's just not a large labor pool. Well, maybe you have more resources today than you need in your company, okay? Or maybe you're not utilizing those resources correctly, and maybe that's why you're constrained. So there's many scenarios here as to why you might be resource constrained, but marketing and social media, there are just so many avenues to find resources. Have you exhausted that? And if you feel that you have, then take a look at the resources inside of your existing business. Are you even utilizing them properly? I would venture to say no, you aren't. And sometimes the resource constraint is you as the business owner. So don't become the resource constraint. Get unstuck. Okay, if it's something that you can farm out, if it's something that you can pass out, then do so. And that leads to my segue. The fourth way that you can get stuck in your business is you're trying to do everything for your business. In other words, you're working in the business, not on the business. I will admit, I hate doing the administrative parts of my business. So what do? I hire that piece out. Okay. I don't like doing expense reports. I don't like doing government required forms. I don't like doing procedural stuff. I don't like doing paperwork. I don't like any of that stuff. So hire that piece out, sub it out. And if you're thinking that you're saving money by doing it all, you are completely wrong. You are completely wrong. If it is something that another resource can do, then another resource should do it. Why? That just simply frees you up. This is possibly why you don't have enough money monetarily. Your monetary situation is stuck, is because you're doing it all. And although on paper you've convinced yourself, well, look, if I hired this out, this would cost me this, and I'm already in a cash crunch. Well, the cash flow will come when you rise above it all and you grow your footprint. And the only way to do that is to get unstuck from the administrative stuff. You got to get out from under the duress of the day-to-day admin tasks, and rise above it. People often tell me, hey, I commented on such and such on your LinkedIn post. And I say, oh, that's great. Thank you. Sorry if I didn't respond personally. That gets managed by somebody else. I don't manage that. That's an administrative task. So hire somebody to do this stuff. That doesn't mean they have to be full-time. Yes, technically there is a cost to hire, but what you're not looking at is, the potential cost to your business of not growing if you do everything administratively. And again, this can be a part-time resource. It could be a virtual assistant. There are just so many ways today to get these things off of your plate. Do so. So bottom line, you have to rise above being in the business and start working on the business. The best investments that I have made in my business were when I was tempted to perform the work for a client, and instead I invested in a resource to perform the work. Guess what happened? That investment, it grew and it grew and it grew. That resource was able to grow client relationships. Not only was the customer delighted, but the resource or resources were delighted. They had work, they were growing, they were adding value, but I was able to pivot and grow the business. And this was a tough one for me. This was a very tough one. Don't fall victim to nobody can do it as well as I can. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that people have talents you don't have, and you got to let go of the ego and the control factor of falling victim to, well, other people just won't do it as well as I will do it. All right. There are 4 ways to get unstuck. I hope this helps. I hope you find it useful. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. Massive impact. You can follow, and please do listen on LinkedIn, on Podbean, on Apple, on Spotify, and on YouTube. Until next time.